from the tech lab, I don't agree with that, because Marauders are so good against Zerg. You just have to be really careful not to get too many Marauders, because if the Zerg player just goes mass Ling, then you can be in a lot of trouble. Now, I would recommend healing this hatchery, because he does have the queen right here, and while the larva is really important, if nothing else, his other queen up here should have had a creep highway between here and could have come down here and thrown a couple of heals on there, because it's worth it to save the 300 minerals as well as the mining time, as, I mean, it's really low. I mean, a couple of Vikings or something could run in there. Even a couple of Reapers could run in here and kill that in absolutely no time. Now, I do like Heosat trying to be aggressive with what few units he does have, and so he is going to be trying to break down these rocks. Now, he is actually ahead in supply. A lot of that is going to be the drone count, though. So 50 drones to the 34 SCVs. You want to make sure to constantly be making SCVs until you have, at bare minimum, 2 SCVs per mineral patch. You want to continue producing them. So he has good saturation. This is almost exactly what you want. See how he has about 2 SCVs for every mineral patch in the main? That is perfect, but he is losing so much valuable mining down here by not having that, and he's not making more SCVs. So the most important thing when you're learning StarCraft is macro. I will say that until the day I die, because macro is what is going to win you the game. Getting your units as quickly as you can. So if you are learning to play StarCraft, just worry about macro. Don't try and worry about super crazy micro. I do like this by Heosat, though, grabbing that the high yield there. That's very good. A lot of players are always too afraid to grab that. Don't be, man. Just go for it. Because if you can hold this for just a couple of minutes, I mean, you have so many minerals. It's paid for itself by far, and you are in pretty gosh darn good shape. So, speaking of good shape, Heosat has 18 Hydras, 32 Zerglings, and 50 drones. At this point, I don't know how many drones he wants to continue making, but he should be able to afford mass Hydra for quite a while. He should have about 3 gas worth going, and he does have 3, and good saturation here, about 2 drones on every one. And I do, though, like that he's continuing to make SCVs. You just want to be really, really on top of that. And now he's going some sort of Hellion, Marauder, Marine build. Still quite a few medvacs, but at least he has enough medvacs now to warrant his army composition. Before, like, the timing of the medvacs was pretty poor, I think. If he would have got a couple more Marauders before the medvacs, I think that would have been ideal. Simply because if there was a counterattack and he had 5 medvacs sitting there, I mean, they don't really do anything. They're more of a defensive unit, and if you're in a defensive position where you only have, like, you have 5 medvacs and 3 units, I mean, it's not going to do that much. And so when you're attacking, they're really good for getting your army out of there to survive. That's kind of how they're defensive. And then also trying to do harassment in the main with them. But since he had so many medvacs, he couldn't have done that simply because he didn't have enough to... there was like nothing to heal. So you just want to really be careful with your medvac numbers. Vikings are another really prime choice, because with this with the add-on, with the reactor, you can get either 2 Vikings or 2 medvacs. And Vikings against lower tier Zerg players can be very, very good, because you can snipe a lot of Overlords. So now they both are massing up here. I do want to note 160 for Heosat, 125 for Blackstalker. But Blackstalker has a lot less workers, so really the army size is going to be about the same, and the income for Heosat should be astronomically higher. Yes, it is. So this is actually a really good timing window for Blackstalker, is before this gold mineral gets completely out of hand, which is right when these drones are getting down here, he needs to move out, and a lot of it's going to come down to positioning. This positioning really, really favors the Terran. Look, he has all of his Hydras back here just running around like idiots, and then he tries to run down here to focus down this Thor. So I'm going to show you that again, and I'm going to show you exactly what happened there. Right, if I can get it to back up. There we go. So we're actually going to watch this in a little bit slower motion. Heosat should have won this battle, but basically he has his units down here. This is okay, but the choke is not what you want. And then he makes a big mistake here when he sees this Thor, because look, these units are running back and forth, so they can't get any sort of flank or surround. And then he runs them down here, which was actually a good idea, but he started to right-click on this Thor, and so that gave these Hellions a perfect line of shot right here. The Zerglings were stuck in back, just now going to get cleaned out, and he lost the Thor, but just the time that it took those Hydras to run down there, he took way more losses than he should have, and he actually is going to end up losing that battle. Now, if he would have, I'm going to pause it really quick, if he would have had his units, say, some units right here, and he would have waited for the Terran player to either come down here so he can get a flank from the front and behind, or if the Terran player would have come up here, he could have got a flank right here and a flank right here, which I guess it wouldn't be a flank on the right side, but he really needed to have gotten to surround, because look, this is all that Blackstalker has left right here, is this tiny little army, and if he would have got a flank on that, you can bet your biscuits that he would have lost that battle very, very decisively. So we're going to go ahead and continue this, as unit positioning is very, very, very important, especially as Zerg. With Terran, you want to keep your units usually clumped up together, which is exactly what Blackstalker did. As Zerg, you want to get those flanks. I mean, he had a hatchery down here, so he could have warranted leaving his units in the down here, because you needed to protect it, and then he would have been able to get a flank on that. But now he is in a lot of trouble as the Terran player is in his base. Look how quick he killed that hatchery, because it still wasn't fully healed from before. And so the Marauders and Hellions doing a lot of damage here. They do love to eat up Zerglings, and I'm pretty impressed with the Hellion damage upgrade. It's fairly strong once you get that special upgrade that makes them do more damage. And so at this point, Heosat, his macros slipping quite a bit. I mean, he does have the high yield, so you're going to get crazy amounts of minerals, but I think he's pumping Zerglings right now too, which isn't a good choice because of those Hellions. And so really right here, Heosat lost a game that I would say he had an advantage in. He did get harassed in the early game there by Blackstalker, but he still had more workers, and Blackstalker didn't quite macro up an army in time to make that attack completely worth it. So what he needed to do was basically have a lot more units on the way, and it all came down to the positioning of that big battle right here, because this really, really favored the Terran player. I mean, look at this. This is so favorable. This could not be worse positioning for the Zerg player. If he would have backed up right when he tried to engage that, the Terran player either would have had to move out into this much more open area, or he would have had to move down here, and in order to get in range of this hatchery, his units would have to be right about here, which allows you to get that flank all the way around, which is exactly what you need. So ideally, you don't want to keep all of your units clumped up like that if you are able to, but either way, that was actually fairly strong play from both these players, considering their level of play. I was actually really impressed with how close this game was, and mad props to Blackstalker for actually coming back and winning that, even though I would say he was at a pretty big disadvantage the entire game. His harassment, it looked like it did a lot, but not quite. So that is going to wrap up this tutorial video. It's basically where I just look at lower end replays, and I try and help out lower tier players by giving advice, and that is going to be that. Again, they're both real life friends, and all that good stuff, so that's going to be that. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys enjoy these tutorial videos or not. I'm really curious to see if they help you out, or if I'm totally nubbing it up and making myself look like a giant jerkhole. So that is that, and I will see you guys next time.